We asked Mariners fans how they feel going into 2026. Here's what they said. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Teddy Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we'll be going over the results of our Mariners fan survey we conducted last month. But before we do, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, MLB The Show 26. Visit MLBTheShow.com/LockedOn and use the promo code Locked On, that's LOCKEDON, to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Pre-order now, available March 17th on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. And be sure to stay tuned later in the episode for our MLB Top 100 highlight, thanks to our friends over at MLB The Show 26. So we conducted a survey last month. A lot of you participated in it. In fact, specifically, 1,191 of you participated in it. So thank you so much if you did. If you were one of those 1,191 people, we greatly appreciate it. And that was more than double the amount of responses we got the last time we did this last year. I think we had 547 specifically responses in that one. Now we're going to compare the responses on some of these questions. We didn't ask all of the same questions this time around as we did last year, but for the questions that we did, we're going to compare the results of those from last year to this year. And the thing that sticks out the most here before we actually get into this thing, just kind of on a broad scale, is winning changes a lot, Colby. There's just generally a much more positive buzz this time around than last time around. And obviously, the Mariners just finished one game away from making the World Series for the first time in franchise history. And also it's just generally a very positive buzz right now in Seattle sports overall. So it makes sense, but it is pretty crazy to see the difference, what a difference a year makes and what a difference winning makes over that year's time, for sure. So let's get into these right off the rip. We got, how excited are you about the roster? So in 2025, the leading answer was somewhat excited, 55.4% of the vote. Not very excited came in second, 27.1%. Very excited for 13.5%, and 4% of the people said not excited at all. This year, 71.6% of our participants in this survey said they are very excited about the 2026 Mariners roster. 27.3% said somewhat excited. Only 0.8% said not very excited. And only 0.3%, that's just 4 people, said not excited at all. So yeah, people are very excited about the Mariners roster in 2026.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that coming off of last year, they went to the ALCS. This year they bring back Naylor, who was already a fan favorite. They had Donovan, and it's worth noting that this poll came out after the Mariners acquired Donovan. If, it came out before, would the numbers look different? I think they probably would. Now, significantly different? I don't know for sure. We'll never know, but probably not 70 some odd percent saying they're very excited about the roster. It would have been higher than last year, obviously, but yeah, this is a team that went out this winter and they lost Jorge, they lost Gino, and that could have been bad, but they retained Naylor. They finally got the Donovan thing across the finish line. They brought in Ref Snyder, who's an upgrade off their bench against left-handed pitching, and obviously Ferrer, who, we'll see. But he certainly has the stuff and the underlying numbers that suggest he could be a high leverage guy, and that's what the Mariners needed. The team, the roster looks very good right now. You look at pretty much any outlet. The Mariners are top 2 or 3 in the American League in terms of favorites to go to the World Series. They're amongst the top, 7 or 8 to win the World Series. Like, this is a World Series caliber team. That's the expectation now after last year, and then kind of, adding Donovan and retaining Naylor and adding Ferrer and all that. And plus, obviously hoping for some health from the rotation this year a little bit. And there are some more exciting young prospects that last year we just weren't talking about. And, it's Colt Emerson, the Kade Anderson, the Ryan Sloan, and those guys could all factor in at some point this year. So, yeah, I'm not all that surprised. But, yeah, it is pretty funny to see 12 people try and convince themselves that, I'm not excited at all about this. Yeah, it's a bad roster. And it's like, okay. Your
it's objectively not a bad roster.
No,
if you have some concerns about it, sure. And if you're like only somewhat excited, that's fair. Sure.
But
but being like, no, this sucks actually. Like, come on.
Yeah. Again, we know there's trolls everywhere. Although, yeah, I don't want to spoil it, so we'll keep that little tidbit until later next week. But it's not that surprising to me, but it is good to see. And again, it would be fascinating to get like a cross section of this if we had put the poll up, 10 days earlier before they got Donovan.
Yeah.
And then if we did one after Donovan, I think that number would have swung pretty significantly. So Donovan was a big piece of this. We know that. And Donovan is pretty much the only thing that can, make us say that the Mariners are better now than they were 6 months ago, because before you got Donovan, you were not objectively not. Now we can at least have a conversation about it.
So our next question was, how do you feel about the offseason? This wasn't something that we asked last year, because I think would have been pretty obvious after the way the offseason went in 2025. But this year, 79.2% said they're content with the offseason. 16.5% said thrilled with the offseason. 3.8% said frustrated / disappointed. And then 0.5% said angry about the offseason. 6 of you are angry. You're mad. Oh, man, about the offseason. This is, I'm content with the offseason. That's what I would have voted for if I voted.
Sure. It's like a B- B off season, which is all we were asking for. It would have been great if you had retained Polo also, then it would have been an A+, and that would have been incredible. But obviously, whatever. I don't really love the strategy, so to speak, of putting all your eggs in the Brennan Donovan basket and hoping you got that done. But they did get it done. So the process, don't love it, but the end result, pretty good. So you take it. Let's not do that again. But take it. But I think content is probably the right word. I think it was a solid off season. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was solid. It was good. It's what you needed to do to maintain, your standing in the American League. That's what they did. I think they maintained. I think they're at least as good as they were last year. And there's obviously a little more upside in this group because you have young players who could explode. Whereas last year you really needed those veterans because your farm system wasn't quite ready to help out in 2025. And now it looks like it is at some point in 2026. So I think content is probably the accurate, ranking for this offseason.
So our next question was, how confident are you in the front office? So last year, 52.5% of the vote said somewhat, 27.2% said not very, 13.7% said very, and 6.4% said not at all. So fairly balanced vote there. This year, 58.7% said very confident in the front office. How about that? 38.5% said somewhat. Only 2.3% said not very, and only 0.5% said not at all. So the feelings about the front office have changed significantly. This is one of the results that I was kind of hinting at the start of the show. That's it's a major difference. I guess that's what happens when you go out and you add the 2 best bats available at the deadline.
Right. I wonder how much of that is the deadline versus the off season. Because obviously the off season has the more recent, but they crushed the deadline, although they could have done a little bit better. Caleb Ferguson was the pivot. Really? I'm going to believe that. Anyway, no, actually not the pivot. He was the guy we wanted all along. Okay, sure. But you just look at the top 2 boxes, 97% of the respondents are at least somewhat confident in the front office compared to last year, which I don't know. I didn't do the math while you had it up. It's a big jump though. I can tell you that much. And so, pretty plain to see. They built a team that was capable of going to the World Series last year. albeit they got really lucky. Again, don't love the process because they had to land the top 2 bats that got traded at the deadline.
Yeah.
But they did. And so it's
Yeah.
like, I'd like the process to be tweaked a little bit here. I would like to not have to go into every, deadline being like, oh, we have to land one of the 3 best players.
Here's like 3 guys that we can realistically
have to get at least one of them, probably 2, to have any shot to make the playoffs, which is where they were at last year. Don't forget that. So I think the very confident or whatever is I wouldn't say I'm very confident in them, but I am confident. Like I think they do a good job overall. It's just, again, there are some things with the process that I don't love.
So here's the biggie. How confident are you in ownership? So last year, not a surprise, 65.6% said not at all. 29.7% said not much. 3.8% said a little. That was only 21 people though. And 0.9% said a lot. 2026 answers though. 49.3% say not much. 33.6% say a little. 13.9% say not at all. And 3.2% say a lot. That's 38 people.
The takeaway there for me still is that about 2/3 of people either have no faith in the ownership group or very little in the ownership group. So while it was, better for them this year than it was last year, it's still not very good. And I think that's fair. And by the way, when we ask this question on December 1st, after the lockout gets instituted, we'll see what the not much or not at all versus the a lot. We'll see what that ratio is. Probably about 100% not at all. So, again, ownership, the people's eyes on ownership did improve, and that's based solely on winning. I mean, ownership owes the front office and the players on the field pretty much everything for getting that result for them. But the result is the result. I get it. Winning cures a lot of ills and all that. But even with all of that, you still had almost 2/3 of people say like, yeah, I don't think this ownership's very good.
Yeah. I think they're deserving of a little bit of a bump from last year, obviously, because like the deadline, they just kind of got out of the way. They were like, Jerry, Justin, you just do your thing, right? We'll write the check. Like that was great. But then, after that, like they're still not willing to, significantly increase payroll, go after big fish in the market, anything like that, and there's obviously the conversation about like actually attracting those guys to Seattle. There's more to that conversation than just spend the money.
Attract them to Seattle by, giving them 90% of market value.
Yeah. Yeah. But, by all accounts, it just doesn't seem like they're even willing to try to go out and get guys like that. So, that still to me gives them a negative grade. But I think this is about where I would expect the answers to be after the way that the last 12 months have gone. All right, we will dive deeper into our Mariners fan survey in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by MLB The Show 26, Gametime, and the Space Needle. This week's MLB Top 100 highlight is brought to you by MLB The Show 26, the latest from the beloved video game franchise. Each week, we're highlighting the stars of MLB's Top 100 players list, the elite names you'll be controlling, building around, and going head-to-head with in MLB The Show. Today, we're spotlighting Julio Rodriguez, who ranks 15th in our Top 100. If you're a Mariners fan, you know what Julio can do. We're talking big homers, doubles down the line, tons of stolen bases, and of course, a lot of ground being covered out in center field. And you can do all that in MLB The Show 26. Right now, of course, Julio is lending his talents to the Dominican Republic and the World Baseball Classic. And you can take him and his team on, as well as other WBC teams from all over the world with your Diamond Dynasty team. Or you can join Julio on your road to the show and help the Mariners win it all. So that does it for this week's MLB Top 100 highlight presented by MLB The Show 26, where you can play, manage, and build with your favorite players and teams. If you love talking baseball, you'll love playing it even more. Visit MLBTHE.show/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKEDON, to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Internet connection required. Pre-order now. Available March 17th on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. MLB opening day is almost here, and you can feel it. I'm talking fresh starts, big expectations, that first crack of the bat. Oh, we are so back. Whether it's a breakout rookie or a division race that goes down to the wire, there's nothing like being in the ballpark for it. The only problem, getting tickets can feel like a grind. Long queues, surprise fees, prices jumping at checkout. You know how it goes. That's where Gametime comes in. The Gametime app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps, and it's simple to use. The Gametime guarantee means you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. So what you see is what you pay, period. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Pint to Pie at the Space Needle is the perfect pregame or pre-funk spot before hitting Climate Pledge Arena. After 4 p.m., the Space Needle's Pint to Pie gives you the whole package. Entry, a sweeter savory tip-top pie, and a pint of beer, wine, or a non-alcoholic drink, all for just $35 per person. Minimum purchase of 2 required. Pint to Pie is your launch pad to Kraken, Torrent, and Storm games, as well as so many other great events at the CPA. So why not enjoy a little space and a great view while pre-gaming with your favorite cocktail rather than trying to cram into a crowded sports bar? Toast the home team, then roll into Climate Pledge with the best pregame story in all of Seattle. Whether it's date night, friend night, or you're just here for the deal of it all, come take your place on the horizon for only $35 per person. Limited time offer, 21 plus only, ID required. Get tickets at spaceneedle.com. Minimum 2 required. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Baseball is back, and you can lock in by joining the Everydayer Club, which gets you ad-free episodes and access to our group chat on Discord. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or tap the link in the description to learn more. And in the description, you can also vote for round 2 of our top 50 Mariners moments tournament that kicked off yesterday. We got a couple of races in there that are pretty much neck and neck right now. I think only a couple percent differences between the 2 options and a couple of those matchups. So get voting. All right, getting back into our Mariners fans survey. Will the Mariners make the playoffs? Last year, 56.1% of you said yes, they'll win a wild card. 27.2% said no. And 16.6% of you said, yes, they'll win the division. Well, 16.6% of you, aka 91 of you, were very correct. This year, 88.5% of the vote says, yes, they'll win the division. My God.
Whew.
That is over 1,000 people who said that. 10.4% say, yes, they'll win a wild card. And then 13 of you are Debbie Downers.
I'm a little surprised by that number because there is like a typical pessimism that comes with being a Mariners fan. I figured the wild card number, like, yeah, they'll make the wild card. Like that would be much closer because people would be like, let's temper expectations.
I figured we'd get a lot more pessimism. Yeah. Because it would be like, I figured we would get a lot more of like, well, it's the Mariners. Of course they're going to disappoint after having such a great year.
Sure.
I got to say though, good. It's about time we're like, yeah, this team is awesome. They're gonna be great. Like it's about damn time that we act like that.
Now, keep on. This poll was put out shortly after they acquired Donovan, so it's kind of like how much were people hyped about that, and how much of that push it, whatever, right? You never know with these things. We're not going to do a constant running poll throughout the year and do a new poll every month for you guys. A, because I don't want to set them up, and B, we're not going to nag you guys to vote. Every single day of the year. So
until the lockout.
Then
it's gonna be
we gotta hold back some polls and some brackets for the lockout. So if you guys are liking the top 50 Mariner moment thing and you like this type of stuff, you are gonna love our content for the lockout because woof.
It's gonna be surveys on surveys on surveys.
Enjoy this season, fellas. Enjoy this season, ladies and gentlemen, because the winter could get rough. It could get really rough into the spring, but we'll talk about that later. We don't need to talk about that now. I thought some natural Mariners pessimism would be sway the results here a little bit, but man, 88% saying like, yep, we're gonna win the division is, and I mean,
good.
Yeah, I just put this out there on Twitter too, and so like that's a negative space, and it didn't really sway the result. People they're in on this Mariner team, which is good to see. Yeah.
Our next question was, what concerns you the most about the team? Now, we didn't give you guys the same options this year as we did last year, because obviously things have changed. Mm-hmm. But I did want to just compare, what the issues were, or what the biggest concerns were going into 2025 compared to what the biggest concerns are this year. So last year, injuries to key players won the vote with 39.3%. I mean, yeah, duh. Third base came in second with 28.2% of the vote. Second base, 26.5% of the vote.
Not wrong.
And then bullpen, 6% of the vote.
Yep.
This year, rotation health comes in at 40%. I was a leading vote getter in this one. Length of the lineup, 26.1%. Interesting. Bullpen depth, 19.1%. And then too reliant on rookies, 14.9%. So really balanced here for 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too, because like the question was written before the Donovan acquisition, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't edit it after they got Donovan, and yet still 15%, give or take, of people are worried about that being too reliant on rookies when there's only one rookie in the starting lineup and none in the bullpen and none in the rotation. So nobody wins the majority in this poll. We have a plurality of of multiple options here, and I think that speaks to how balanced the team is, that nobody could really put their finger on a single issue that they have with the club. And like we said, there are obviously questions about this team. The length of the lineup is basically like, do you trust JP to repeat last year? Do you think Luke Raley and Victor Robles seasons were a fluke? Do you think, Dom Canzone was the real deal and all that? You don't need all of those things to be true. Thankfully, that's what the Donovan acquisition buys you. We talked a lot about that. But yeah, I think it was, the relative closeness of this poll and how nobody won a majority speaks to how well balanced the roster is, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the rotation health, obviously, after what we had to sit through last year, I'm not surprised that it ended up getting the plurality of the vote here.
Our next question was, which starter will have the best season? Bryan Woo wins this one with 40.2% of the vote. Logan Gilbert comes in second with 36.9% of the vote. Then there's a very large gap between Logan and the third place finisher, who's George Kirby, at exactly 16%. Bryce Miller comes in at 6.2%. Luis Castillo just 0.7% of the vote. Not really much of a surprise here. I mean, it's a toss-up between Bryan and Logan, but coming off of the year that both of those guys are coming off of, makes sense that Woo gets the slight edge over Logan, who was obviously dealing with injuries last year, and as we've talked about, just didn't have as good of a year as we know Logan can have. Which player are you most confident will bounce back this season? So we only had three options here. Bryce Miller by far won this one. 73.4% of the vote goes to Bryce. 16.9% of the vote goes to Luke Raley, and then 9.7% of the vote goes to Victor Robles. Yeah, not surprising. Once again, that would be Bryce here that runs away with it.
Sure. I think people are disrespecting Luke Raley a little bit. Just going to throw that out there.
I mean, when you put it up against Bryce Miller, though,
how good Luke Raley was in 2020.
But you can only choose one.
No, they chose wrong. Luke Raley is going to have a higher WAR than Bryce Miller this year.
I mean, if you chose Luke Raley, couldn't you say that they're disrespecting Bryce Miller?
No.
All right.
Bryce Miller's done it once. Luke Raley's done it twice. Checkmate.
Bryce Miller's done it twice.
Yeah, if you want to count a mid-4 ERAs.
He's done it 1.5 times.
I mean, okay, Luke's done it twice. So checkmate.
All right.
But no, I mean, I'm not surprised. Yeah, Bryce probably should win this in all seriousness, and I think he's going to have a nice bounce back here. But there's that lingering concern about those loose bodies floating around. He thinks he has a handle on it, and obviously we'll have to see if the side thing is something that lingers into the season or not. He played catch back-to-back days. He's going to throw a bullpen this weekend. So it doesn't seem super serious. Maybe he's not on the opening day roster. Maybe he, has to miss a start or two, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that's, a serious oblique thing. That's a, 6 to 8 weeks minimum type of deal. So, but again, that came out well after this poll ended. So yeah, Bryce winning this, not that surprising.
All right, we will take a look at the remaining questions on our Mariners fans survey, including who you think team MVP will be in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by TurboTax and FanDuel. Look, y'all, tax season doesn't have to take over your life, all right? Because this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. All you have to do is file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. College basketball is nonstop. I'm talking big games, tight spreads, and momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, you name it. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. So go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. On there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So getting back into our Mariners fans survey, we asked you guys, which prospect/young player are you most confident in contributing? Coming in at 48.4% is Cole Young, leading things here, but barely. Colt Emerson comes in at 46.3%. So a very tight race here between Cole and Colt. And then Kade Anderson is all the way at the bottom here with 5.1% of the vote. Poor Kade. But yeah.
I wonder how different this would be if, like if Kade, he had a good outing. He's going to start tomorrow, Friday. If you guys aren't listening to this on the day it comes out, he's going to start. Like if Kade has a couple more starts, like pretty good starts in the Cactus League, I wonder if people are all of a sudden they would like to change their vote to Kade, because we know how the hype machine goes in spring training and all that.
Ooh, but, shiny.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm surprised that Colt Emerson didn't win this one. Now it's very close. So it's essentially a 50-50 poll.
I guess because people are concerned about like when exactly he'll be up with the team.
I mean, yeah, I put contributing, not like who will have the best year, for a reason, because like Cole Young makes the opening day roster. These other two guys don't. It's harder for them to, put up the numbers and the WAR and all that. So
yeah, can't contribute from Tacoma or Arkansas. So.
No. So yeah, I'm a little surprised, especially since so many people are just like, now at least are like, well, Colt Emerson should be the second baseman, and you can just send Cole Young down. And it's like, what? Like, what are we talking about here? So also, you would make Colt Emerson the third baseman and put Brendan Donovan at second base. Anyway. Yeah. But regardless, like basically people want Colt Emerson on the roster over Cole Young. And it's like, based on what? I don't hype, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, this poll would kind of make it seem like the plurality of people think that Cole Young can actually help the Mariners this year. So it's kind of a weird, kind of situation here. I thought this would be more like a 60-40 type of thing with Emerson leading the way. But it is what it is. And I think there's a couple good answers there. And it's really those two guys though, when you really think about it. There's just Sloan, Anderson, maybe they get here, maybe they don't. What, I'm going to throw Ryan Bliss into this? Like,
I wonder what would have happened if you put Brendan Davis as an option.
I mean, aren't we done with that now? Like, the dude hasn't been good for like 5 games in a row. Like, can we stop with that now?
5 games. Has it been 5 games? Has he even played 5 games?
Whatever. Who cares? The Mariners haven't won a game in like 6 weeks. I don't know. Just
it's over.
The Cactus League. I don't care. But
it's over.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the results of this one.
So who will the team MVP be? According to 78.1% of you, it's Julio Rodriguez.
Ooh, yeah, that's surprising.
This feels very disrespectful to the guy who literally just finished second in MVP voting in the entire American League and just hit 60 home runs, who only got 16.4% of the vote. So, all of you like yell at us in the comments about how we're, so down on Cal because we don't think he's going to hit 60 again. He's
going to hit 45 homers this year.
But clearly a lot of you are buying into the Cal Raleigh regression. Or maybe you think Cal's going to be a 9-win player, but Julio's just going to be a 10-win player or an 11-win player this year.
That's definitely what you guys think.
That's definitely it. Yeah. So again, 16.4% of the vote for Cal, 2.2% of the vote for Josh Naylor. Now I didn't count all the misspellings of Josh Naylor's name and all this because this is Colby's fault though. This is Colby's fault. Colby should have just put a few options on there for you to vote from, not have it be a write-in. Having it be a write-in was the most insane thing that you could have possibly done. But whatever.
It's not even the most insane thing I did on this poll.
Well, so, yeah. We'll get to that in a second. That made me have to do math last night.
Who is supposed to catch these things? Who is supposed to edit these things? You told me to send you the poll so you could double check it. I did.
I don't check the things that you send me.
And stop complaining about it.
Randy Arozarena.
Check things more. Well, here, look at this. Tell me what I did wrong.
Yes. Anyway, Randy Arozarena comes in with 0.6% of the vote. Only 7 of you believe in Randy to be the team MVP, and then 6 of you believe in Bryan Wu to be the team MVP. Which player would you most like to see get a contract extension? No surprise here, Logan Gilbert leads the charge, 86.9% though. That's a little surprising that it's that much. George Kirby comes in at second, 10.4%. And then poor Randy and JP. Randy only gets 1.4% of the vote and JP only gets 1.3% of the vote. And then our final question, what minimum result would make you consider the season a success? And Colby, you made me do math last night because you made this so overly complicated.
Again, who had editing power and who didn't take advantage of it?
You're the guy that wrote win the ALCS, but also lose the World Series, which it's like, doesn't that kind of go hand in hand?
Yes, if they didn't that after the fact, but whatever.
You
had the opportunity to edit and you didn't do it. That's on you.
So I combine those answers. Mm-hmm. So if you said lose World Series, that goes into win ALCS.
Yeah.
All right. So win ALCS comes in at number 1 here. 48.7% of the vote. 27.1% said winning the ALDS, making the ALCS would be a success. 10.5% said just winning a playoff series. So like if you make the wild card and you win that series, that's a success. Winning the World Series comes in at number 4 with 8.9%. That would be the minimum that you would consider a success, is winning the whole damn thing. And then 3.5% say make the playoffs, no series win would be a success for them. And then missing the playoffs but staying competitive, 4% or 4 of you, not 4%, only 0.3% of the vote. But 4 of you said missing the playoffs, staying competitive. Yeah, that's success. That's a success for me.
It's pretty interesting to me that obviously, like the almost 10% of people are like, they have to win the World Series or it's a failure. But also like the almost half of you that's like, yeah, they get to the World Series, that's good enough. They don't have to win it. But also the expectation to be considered a successful season is to get to the World Series. Like over 50% of people said they either had to get to or win the World Series for this year to be successful.
At a minimum.
Yeah, I guarantee you that has never been the case in the history of the Seattle Mariners, where a majority, again, this is only 1,200 people out of a million people fan base, but it's a pretty good sample size. We're one of the larger Mariners podcasts. So like, this is a sample size that they would use in like political polls. It's a pretty good reply rate. And the fact that over 50% of people said they had to at least get to the World Series or win it for this to be at a minimum, for this to be a successful season. That speaks to the
that's a lot.
That speaks to the expectations being placed on this team. I mean, if they get to another ALCS and they lose, it's going to be really hard for me to look at that and be like, oh, what a terrible year. They failed. It's like, I mean, yes, but not really.
No.
I want to win the World Series. I want to go to the World Series. Of course we all do. Like, that's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
If you're one of the last 4 teams standing, that's after 170 some odd games that you've played up to that point. Yeah, that's a success.
But also it's like good that like the bar has been raised significantly. Because if we did this poll 3 years ago, making the playoffs would have been like 90% to be considered a successful season. Well, now they've done it. They've won a division. I probably could have done.
I mean, this is the last step now. The last step now is making the World Series and then winning the World Series.
So what if they make the World Series, they lose, and we do this poll again next year, assuming there's a season next year?
It's probably
will winning the World Series be like
probably
the minimum acceptable result? Is it just going to continue to? And then after that, they have to win the Olympics. Like I don't. Like
2028. Forget Team USA. We got the Mariners coming in.
We got the Mariners. Just the Mariners. They have like a group of athletes that don't represent any country for like political reasons and whatnot. Seattle Mariners. Competing against Team USA for the gold in 2028. But
and after that, it's win the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, maybe the NCAA title first, and then they can.
Yep.
I mean, the Mariners are about to own the sports world, and then they're going to win the Premier League in 2032. So,
and then who needs the Sonics? The Mariners are going to win the NBA Finals.
That's right, but not the Stanley Cup. Let's not go crazy here.
Then, like 2035, it's like win the Daytona 500, and it's just like, all right, come on.
Raleigh wins the Daytona 500, or I guess Julio, based on how you guys voted.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is
Cal who?
Yeah,
who even is that?
It is nuts to me though that like basically for this season to be considered a success, right? Obviously, more than 50% say they at least have to get to the World Series, and of that 50 some odd percent, 10% of people are saying they have to win it.
Yeah,
but if you factor they have to get to the ALCS for it to be considered a success, that's another 20% of people who said they have to win the ALDS. So it really is nuts that like we're sitting here and getting to the ALCS again is sitting at about 75% of the vote of what would be considered a success when you add up those top 3 levels. Like that just speaks to the expectations. I hope the Mariners live up to them. I think they're earned. I think they're warranted. And I think that it's great that the fan base is thinking along those lines. And I think it's great that the players themselves have embraced that expectation and they're not running from it. They're not, they understand it's a journey. They understand it's a long trip back. They don't get to start where they finished last year. They have to rewrite the book and get to the end again and write a different ending. But I think it's a good thing overall that the fan base is feeling this and allow yourself to be heard. If they lose in 5 in the ALDS, that should sting. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, at least we got there. Like, no, let's raise the bar. Let's raise the expectation level for this team because they've earned it. You've earned it by waiting as long as you have to get to this point. And let's just go get it done this time.
All right. So that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Teddy Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Teddy Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.